So this is this video is like a month old or something. I somehow just now saw it. Woman presses Tucker on the deportation of illegal immigrant families. It's detrimental. Completely true, by the way. Let's go ahead and see what happens.
All right.
Oh my. Okay, so instantly I'm disgusted I am sick to the pit of my stomach that Tucker Carlson has like fangirls in the audience screaming out his name like this is a One Direction concert. It's the Fox News contributor. What? Not even anymore, but still.
All right. Does someone have a question? Oh, so wait, hold on. I can hear a woman with a microphone. Oh, she's right there.
I didn't see whether you did upper deck or lower deck.
Lower deck, baby.
Okay. So yesterday, while speaking, Vivek Ramaswamy briefly mentioned the issue of large influx of illegal immigrants coming to America and how it is affecting our economy and everyday Americans and everything that we do. And his solution for this was to send back all illegal aliens. So I wanted to present to you the circumstance that I have seen that has affected me in the state of Texas, where there are children that come here with their families at a very young age when they're not old enough to make that decision to come here legally or illegally. So while they're here, they're subject to the jurisdiction of the American government under public education systems. They receive their education here, and they are influenced by our culture here, and this is the only language and experience that they have in society. So with them being sent back, it would obviously be detrimental for them. So what is your opinion of this, and how would you handle that situation?
I'm gonna predict this, okay? Republicans are incredibly callous and just have no empathy, and this becomes really apparent when talking about illegal immigration, because these American-loving patriots usually are advocating to send back illegal immigrants, even though illegal immigrants commit less crime on average, pay a ton into Social Security, they pay more into social services than they take out, they benefit our overall economy. Despite all of these things, rather than wanting to perhaps legalize the people that are already here illegally so that we can make sure they're not criminals, so that we don't have dangerous people here, and also don't hurt our economy. Why can't we do that? They don't care. It's just deport. And that's what I'm guessing he's going to say, but we'll see.
Well, I would say just the obvious point first, since they call me Captain Obvious, that whenever you move large groups of people from one place to another, particularly if they don't want to move, there's a lot of suffering. That's true when people come here illegally. Ask anyone who's made it to the Darien Gap, you know. A lot of people die. Most women are, I mean, the whole thing's a disaster. Mass movements of people are bad, okay, in general. So there's that. If you did that, you would cause some suffering. No doubt. It's gone on too long. On the other hand, I don't really see how we have a choice. Because how can you say you're a nation of laws if people from other countries don't have to obey your laws? And you really...
Oh my God, it's even worse. It's even worse than what he was gonna say. Sorry, what I predicted was not even as bad. He's like, so yeah, it's gonna cause a ton of suffering. Yup, there's gonna be a lot of sick, horrible things that happen, you know? But we really have no choice because we said it's the law, LOL. What about the kids that came here? You know you can change the law. You're a nation of laws. Like, we're a nation of laws, but we're also a nation that can adapt and adjust the laws accordingly. That's one of the main things about the Constitution, which is why conservative types will sometimes say that the Constitution is a living, breathing document because it changes. It adapts. Laws can adapt and change. So maybe this is evidence that the law should change. If you have a large group of people and you're acknowledging it would do a ton of damage and harm and cause a great deal of suffering to try and move that large group of people, and that large group of people being here aren't causing any harm when they're overwhelmingly lower crime, contributing to the economy, etc. They're saying because we have this law and because we just must stick to the law, I guess, therefore, this is what's happening now. It's funny because Republicans really didn't have this approach when it came to Roe v. Wade. They really had no issue then saying, well, f the law. We should change the law then. We're going to overturn the law. They had no problem doing that. But when it comes to illegal immigrants, no, they're just going to, they're literally fine. The audience is applauding the unnecessary inflicting of suffering upon a large group of people that otherwise were doing nothing but benefiting the country. You realize that if you legalized them and gave them citizenship, you could then make sure that they're obeying your country's laws.
I really don't know what to say. I mean, if I break the law, or if you break the law, especially now that they found out you came here, you know, you're going to be held to that standard ruthlessly. I mean, I have a friend, Peter Navarro, is about to go to prison for not responding to a subpoena from Liz Cheney and her fake committee. Hunter Biden does. It's like totally cool. It's Hunter Biden is cool.
Okay, is Tucker Carlson on drugs? He seems like out of it or something. Also, he's saying things in this like calm sort of way, but then they're sounding incredibly aggressive at the same time when he's like, you better hope. I mean, if you're here illegally, you know, that law is going to hold you accountable ruthlessly. It's like, oh my God. Jeesh.
So, like, yes, if you want to restore the country to where it needs to be, which is a fair country, fairness is the goal, okay, fairness, which means universal principles universally applied, then you have to be serious about your laws and probably need like far fewer laws. We could probably get rid of...
You could just change the law. He's trying to dilute it into this big philosophical, well, if we allow one law to be broken, blah, blah, blah. Again, they had no problem not following the law or advocating to overturn the law when it came to abortion issues. They were all against the law then. Now that it's illegal immigrants, they must follow the law as if it's the breathed word of God or something.
99% of laws. I've got a lot of kids. I don't have a lot of laws in my house. You know, can't smoke weed at the dinner table or whatever, you know, like the obvious ones. I don't need a law.
Tucker's been smoking weed then.
For that. So, but anyway, the point is, you degrade your country and its justice system when you allow tens of millions of people to break the law without punishment, okay? The second thing I just know from...
Then maybe there could be a different kind of punishment. Then maybe it should be, now that you're here, you are, I don't know, obligated to take some kind of a course, right? Or something like that, while you're being given your citizenship or something.
The second thing I just know from traveling a lot is that I'm not sure how it helps any country to have its most ambitious people leave. And the funny thing, if I can just say, about American liberals is they're so convinced that their system is superior, they're like, well, you know, of course, anyone living here in some depressing suburb of Houston on food stamps has a much better life than someone in El Salvador. Well, actually, I've been to El Salvador a lot. It's pretty great. And I'm not convinced it's the worst place to raise your kids right now, to be honest. But more to the point, how is that compassionate? Syria had a civil war, and like almost every single doctor in Syria left and went to the West. Oh, a new life for the doctors. Well, what about people who still live in Syria? They don't have any doctors. And if you talk to anyone who runs one of these so-called third world...
Wait, what? So he's saying that because... So is he acknowledging then that illegal immigrants are incredibly ambitious? Because it's also true that illegal immigrants actually, or I'm sorry, immigrants, on average, start more businesses than native-born Americans as well. So is he acknowledging this and being like, they just need that ambition back in their own country? What? He's like packaging this like bigoted sort of mindset, this like go back to your own country thing. Not to mention how many people here are here illegally because they were fleeing suffering and torture from their own country. Just sending them back, what does that do?
Countries, some of which are pretty nice, I gotta be honest. They're a lot better than downtown LA. We're always like, oh, it's so third world. Really? They have none of that in El Salvador. None. There's no one on the street. They have families. Like, it's embarrassing to have your relatives beg. They have no murders. Like, the third world is not, I mean, everyone should visit just to, like, give you a little bit of perspective on, say, Baltimore. But if you talk to people who run these countries, they're like, all the people with the most ambition take off. Like, that's terrible for us. We're losing a whole generation. The brain...
Maybe that shows that the country is not accommodating the ambition. What? So he's literally being like, yeah, a lot of these immigrants might be fleeing and they're really ambitious. And, you know, we hear the third world and think it's bad, but it's actually not that bad, dude. Clearly it's bad because you have all these people who have so much ambition and motivation and they're leaving. If your country wasn't abysmal, or if there wasn't some big, deeper underlying problem, then why are all of your ambitious, motivated people taking off? It can't even accommodate them.
And so, like, why doesn't, you know, if I think most immigrants now are not from Latin America, they're mostly coming from Africa and the Middle East, some from Asia. But I don't know how that helps Liberia, or more likely Nigeria, for everyone to come here. And definitely doesn't help us at all. And there's no justification for it economically at all. And by the way, this country is so big.
Oh my God. So that was just a blatant lie. We're going to pull up some, what Tucker Carlson would refer to as the F slur. Yes. Facts. Undocumented immigrants quietly pay billions into Social Security and receive no benefits. If all undocumented immigrants were deported today, next year's Social Security trust funds would have approximately $13 billion less for benefit payouts. It's a considerable loss of dollars, especially when it's projected that the Social Security funds will be depleted by 2034. Undocumented immigrants contributed $13 billion into Social Security funds in 2016 and $3 billion to Medicare. 3 years prior, Social Security Administration Stephen Goss wrote a report that estimated undocumented immigrants contributed $12 billion into Social Security. Payroll tax, the 12% tax taken out of salaried workers' paychecks, split between employer and employee, primarily funds Social Security, accounting for 88%. Undocumented workers typically use a fake Social Security or someone else's Social Security when applying for salaried jobs. Yeah, the government, the IRS, will never say no to your tax dollars. Undocumented immigrants' contributions to the Social Security funds help its finances, especially because they are not receiving benefits. So there's an example of where we are benefiting immensely.
And so spread out that most people have no idea what's going on in it. But I would just, I honestly, if you have a free day, drive 500 miles in one direction, stay in a motel and drive back. And tell me what you see. Is that the country you remember? There's garbage on the side of the road. There are people living in the bathroom at the hotel? Really?
This is because of illegal immigrants. There's now trash on the street. Oh, take me back to the 1950s, before littering was even a thing. Oh, the good old days.
Like, how did that happen? And how do we know it was? Why didn't we know it was happening? So I just think we're in an actual crisis. I think if we deported a single person, it would be sad for that person, probably.
I think that Tucker Carlson's last remaining brain cell is in serious crisis right now. This guy is, he sounds drunk.
But we don't have a choice. Yeah, Nikki Haley. No, Nikki Haley isn't real, as I told you at the outset. She literally isn't real. You've never seen her walk by a mirror. The whole thing's a hologram designed by Republican donors. By the way, the marvelous thing about Nikki Haley is she gets so much attention on television. I don't have one, but apparently she's on television like every commercial break. When we come back, Nikki Haley. And there's not 27 Republican primary voters who aren't billionaires who support her program. It's insane. She's running on things that are completely irrelevant to Republican primary voters. Just look at the polling. And yet she persists. You don't want to live in a society where every politician has to have a personal billionaire backing his campaign.
This is literally just a schizo rant at this point. Is it just like, hey, Tucker, we got to kill some time. Will you get up there and just kind of spiel off some bullshit for the next 2.5 hours?
Where every cultural movement has to, because what is that? That's an oligarchy. And do you want to live in one? That's Russia, right? Russia, it's an oligarchy. Okay. They don't have freedom of the press.
There are definitely certain tendencies, I think, that are probably like that when it comes to the importance of politicians and using money and whatnot. But it's absolutely not true that it's necessary. So no, it wouldn't be an oligarchy, but there are definitely still significant issues, I would say. Mainly because don't conservatives bring up the fact that Trump had way less funding and he beat Hillary. Yeah, but see, this is more convincing to me because I don't think that the US would technically classify as an oligarchy, because this is the kind of stuff I meant. When the rich and middle class disagree, each wins about half the time. Since its initial release, the Gillens-Page paper's findings have targeted in 3 separate debunkings. Oh, they took a look at the original analysis and found that it doesn't hold up. Oh. Gillens and Page used a database of 1,779 policy issues, which included data on the opinions of median income Americans, the rich, business interests, the non-business interest groups like unions, etc., to determine whose opinions correlated most closely with actual government policy. Researchers critiquing the paper found that middle-income Americans and rich Americans actually agree on an overwhelming majority of topics. So some of that, though, is going to be also disproportionate because of the influence that rich people have over large groups of people. They can influence the middle class in certain ways as well, but that still would not suffice as an oligarchy. Wait, he wasn't wrong? No, Tucker was wrong to call it an oligarchy, I think, because it just doesn't hold up to scrutiny. That means the groups agreed on 89.6% of bills. That leaves only 185 bills on which the rich and the middle class disagree. And even there, the disagreements are small. They found that on these 185 bills, the rich got their preferred outcomes 53% of the time, and the middle class got what they wanted 47% of the time. The difference between the two is not statistically significant, and there are some funny examples in the list of middle class victories. For example, the middle class got what they wanted on public financing of elections, and all 3 1990s surveys included in the Gillens data. They opposed it while the rich favored it. That matched up with more recent research showing that wealthy people are more supportive of public election funding. So it's hard to say definitively based on this data that the rich are getting what they want more than the middle class. I mean, so it's like a very small difference there. What's the other one? So the other study talking about America being an oligarchy, or the original study, apparently there were even more holes found in it. So this new researcher concludes that strong support from the middle class is about as good a predictor of a policy being adopted as strong support from the rich. 47% of the time. Changes enacted 52% of the time. That elites favored at that rate. Okay, well, yeah, I think that Tucker was still wrong there, but at least he gave us something that was nuanced that we could look into. That was kind of fun. What was that laugh? Did this man just have a stroke on stage?
Press! They don't have freedom of the press!
Woof. I would hate to go to any comedy movie with Tucker Carlson next to me. You just Annabelle laughing next to you. I think he's just drunk. If you want to support the channel, please consider becoming a member today. Members get early access to videos, access to all the stream VODs, and exclusive access to emotes as well. So if you'd like to support the channel, become a member today.